Okay, today I'd like to talk about the distributive property. So let's jump right in here. So distributive property, the distributive property says multiplying the sum of two or more add-ins by a number will give you the same result as multiplying each add-in individually by the number and then adding the products together. A lot of words there. I'll give you a minute to go ahead and write that down. You can pause this if you need to get it written down. But let's go ahead and take a look at what that actually says. It says multiplying the sum of two or more numbers. Well, right here I have the sum of two numbers, 2 plus 5. It says multiplying that by a number is the same thing as multiplying each of the add-ins individually. So 3 times the sum of 2 plus 5 is the same thing as 3 times 2 plus 3 times 5. Well, let's prove it. Let's check it to see if it's true. So on this side, we would do the parentheses first, which would give us 7. 2 plus 5 is 7, so that'd be 3 times 7. On the other side, we'd go ahead and do both the multiplication problems. So we would have 3 times 2, which is 6, and 3 times 5, which is 15. So we'd have 6 plus 15. On the left side, we'd go ahead and do the multiplication. 3 times 7 is 21. And on the right side, 6 times 15 is also 21. So we've proved that it works, okay? There are times that it makes sense to use it and other times that it doesn't. One of the most frequent times we're going to use the distributive property in algebra and pre-algebra is opening up parentheses so we can solve an equation, okay? Go ahead and take a look at this example. It says 7 times the sum of a plus 5. Well, it's similar except for we have a variable in the place where the 2 was up above. So if we take a look at this, we're going to go ahead and distribute this 7 across the sum. So this would be 7 times a plus 7 times 5. Now, as you can see, all we can do with 7 times a is say, well, 7 times a equals 7a. But we can go ahead and do the 7 times 5, which is 35. So we end up with the expression 7a plus 35. Distributive property is used lots with mental math. Some of you probably use it with mental math, just don't realize that you're doing it. So just for our first example of that, let's say we needed to do find the product of 7 and 49. Well, 49 is the same thing as 50 minus 1. So I'm going to pull that apart. Then I'm going to use distributive property and do 7 times 50 minus 7 times 1. Well, 7 times 50 is 350. 7 times 1 is 7. So 350 minus 7 is equal to 343. So 7 times 49 is 343. Let's work a couple more examples. I think you'll find this useful when you're working with mental math. So on this one, I'm going to do 6 times 398. Well, can I round 398 up to the nearest 100, which would be 400? That's rounded up, we rounded it up 2, so I'm going to subtract that 2 away from it. So I'm going to say 6 times 400 minus 6 times 2. Left out a 6 there, that should be in there. I'll put it in there for us. And then as we go on, we've got 6 times 400 is 2,400 minus 6 times 2, which is 12, which will give us a product, or a difference here, but product here, of 2,388. Okay? On the other side, we have 5 times 210. Well, I can pull that 210 apart and write it as 5 times 200 plus 5 times 10. Well, 5 times 200 is 1,000, and 5 times 10 is 50. So that's going to give us a sum, or in this case, a product of 1,050. Here's where we really are going to use this in our algebra and pre-algebra, is in rewriting expressions. So let's take a look at this first expression. It says 3 times the sum of 3 times a minus, or the difference of 3 times a minus 2. Well, I can distribute that 6 across both of the terms inside the parenthesis. So we would have 6 times 3a minus 6 times 2. Okay, so we can go ahead and do that multiplication. Well, 6 times 3 is 18, so we have 18a. 6 times 2 is 12, so we have minus 12. So we have 18a minus 12. Take a look at this next example. It says 2 times the sum of 4x and 3 plus x. If you notice, if we're paying attention here, we notice that this second x is not inside the parentheses. So this 2 is not going to distribute all the way down here. It only distributes across what's inside the parentheses. So when we rewrite this one using distributive property, we're going to say 2 times 4x plus 2 times 3, and then plus x. Then when we go ahead and simplify this, we're going to end up with 8x plus 6 plus x. We talked the other day about combining like terms, and since 8x and x are like terms, and we know that there's a ghost of 1 here, so we're going to add 8 plus 1 is 9. So we're going to simplify that down to 9x plus 6. Okay? And for the last example, looks like I've already got it filled in for you, but let's go ahead and take a look at it. It says 7 times the sum of 3c plus 2d minus 4. The difference here, the plus x was on the outside of the parenthesis, the minus 4 is on the inside. So we are going to go ahead and distribute this 7 across everything in this term, or in this expression. So we would have 7 times 3c plus 7 times 2d minus 7 times 4, which would simplify to 21c plus 14d minus 28. I hope this short little video helps you. Be sure to ask questions if any arise, and good luck.